Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders shipping real AI products into the world. I'm your host, Tyler Postal from Voker, and today I'm really excited to be joined by a friend, Ian, the founder and CEO of Cloud Humans, an AI-powered customer support platform built for real-time conversations where agents resolve the right cases and route the rest to your team across channels like WhatsApp, chat, and email. Ian, it's great to have you on.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you for having me. Appreciate the invite.
Of course. Well, I'm excited to get into all sorts of stuff. I know we've chatted about AI, agent systems back and forth over WhatsApp and other places before, but maybe let's start with your founding story. What were you doing before Cloud Humans? How did you get the idea for the business?
Of course. So I've always worked at startups, just being earlier stage. I was an entrepreneur in a fintech at a big company. The idea for Cloud Humans came twofold. So the first one, throughout my experience at Uber, as well as Loft, we were always outsourcing a lot of the work, especially at Uber. My co-founder and I, we both worked there. And when you have to scale something through process with people, the more you scale, the more expensive it gets and the worse the quality. So you get these economies of scale. Now, the second experience is because when I was working at Loft, which is Open Door for Brazil, also a unicorn, they part of my responsibility was also customer support. And I wish Cloud Humans existed back there. So a lot of the pain that I had and my team had, we're solving right now. Loft is actually a client, not immediately after we launched, but they became about a year ago.
Amazing. I love that. I love those stories where it's like you're solving a pain that you've experienced, because it means you probably have pretty good taste in what should be built, and it's a great story to now have them as a customer. Maybe tell a bit more for the audience, like what is Cloud Humans? What's the core of the product, and who is that ideal customer? Is it other businesses like Loft, and what are those key attributes that make it important for them?
Of course. So we have twofold, right? You said an AI platform for customer support. That's accurate. But translating into a non-technical, what does it mean? So from one hand, we have Claudia, which is our customer support agent, automates a little bit over 65% of customers' conversation end to end. And the second is Cloud Chat, which is the help desk omni-channel, multi-channel, through which that whenever Claudia can't respond, there is the help desk that is AI first there. We are currently focused on medium businesses, think 50 to 500 employees. So starting with about 4 people in customer support, that's when it starts to make sense to hire Cloud Humans, mostly focused on e-commerce companies or SaaS that sell to our B2B SaaS focus on SMBs. So those are the two main focus and where we shine the most.
Amazing. And no worries if you can't share, any numbers publicly, but I know you guys are like, a lot of people are building agent systems. A lot of them are still in prototype phase, maybe some are in production, but most still are at pretty low volumes. I know you guys, have some pretty significant scale across conversations. And is there anything you can share around like either number of conversations a month roughly, or the various channels? Like give us a sense of like the scale that Cloud Humans does and your AI systems, handle.
Of course. So we should be getting close to $5 million in ARR pretty soon. I
Wow,
think that's a good number.
that's amazing.
Uh, thank you. A lot of work and a
I'm
good
sure.
team working on it. And Claudia is probably having about close to 4 million conversations a month.
That's huge. There are so many companies we've talked to, which is really exciting. Everyone's building agents, and there's a lot of unique sort of approaches and new systems. But if you actually get down to it, most of these are still in like the hundreds or less of conversations a month, as they're figuring out like how to integrate it into their product or what's the right user experience. So um, I was really excited to talk to you, because there's a lot of people are now getting to production and they're trying to figure out, how do we handle designing systems that scale for agents, and that kind of thing. But anyways, sorry to cut you off there. I just excited to talk to someone with like that kind of volume. Maybe what is one of the biggest challenges you've experienced, like going from, smaller usage numbers on your agent, on Claudia, to growing? Like, what's something you didn't expect that people should be looking out for that are building agent products?
Uh, so the thing is, we went through YC, and a lot of what they teach is part of the DNA of how we work. Although we have huge ambitions, we don't try to solve for billions and trillions of scale. We didn't start thinking about solving for millions of tickets. We started trying to solve it for hundreds. And when we started was right when GPT 3.5 started exploding. So when you connect to things, there are two takeaways that were challenges here. The first one is when there was nothing, a lot of our stack we had to create ourselves. So we didn't have length views, didn't have LangChain, didn't have a lot of those things that could accelerate the process. Nowadays, so that's one of the challenges. Things change so much, and you have to make time to keep up and be humble enough so you can reassess whatever stack you're using to test it every time to see if it's actually better. Give you another example. Whenever we started the first models, you would put a newer one, you would immediately perform a little bit better, be it quality wise, be it automation wise. Well, but that's not always the case. That was just for the first 2 or 3 new models. And then at some point, when something new came and we learned to the hard way, we implemented something and it didn't go us through. We had to build a A/B test to, okay, let's test the model to see. Sometimes perform well in a client, not well in another. So that's another challenge. We had to create flexibility because business models, although it's e-commerce, although it's SaaS, even between them, they have different responses to changes. The second thing that was something that was very important for us when you're thinking about scale, right? It's less about AI necessarily and more about as a company. When we launched, the first clients that we had, they trusted in the person. Like they wanted to test something new. That's the hair on fire thing, and then a break and they'll buy it. That's the kind of thing. They early adopters, big thing. And it was a poetic license for things to maybe be buggy or have a bug here and there. As we scaled and more clients signed without having met me in person, or even my co-founder nowadays, they were not hiring anymore because they wanted to be early adopters or their pain was so big that a break is enough. Now they need water. So whenever we start hitting those through feedback to the clients, we had to make a big push with the entire team. We actually stopped for, 3 months, 2 months to give complete new scale to the volume that we handled. That was actually last year. So nowadays we have, depending on the piece of the puzzle, we have at least 6x more throughput that we can go through versus our 1 minute peak from the past few months.
That's incredible. Yeah, so many learnings, I'm sure, like going from small scale to growing to close to 5 million in ARR and then millions of conversations. I wanted to dig into what you mentioned about how quickly things are changing and needing to be humble enough to reassess what you've already built. I don't know if you're alluding to this, but I've experienced this myself in engineering teams or in people that we, in customers that we work with. Sometimes because you're early, you build all these custom systems internally, like you mentioned, and then something comes out later that maybe is like, it is a little better. It's not like night and day. And then you start to get this debate that like engineers internally are like, no, ours is better. We need to maintain this. We need to keep building this ourselves. But then it turns out you're building your own. Like the analogy would be an e-commerce company that doesn't use Shopify and builds its own website because they think it gives them like a tiny bit of a speed, site load speed advantage. Did you experience, how do you navigate that? Was your team fully on board with like, yeah, we're okay with killing some internal dev tools or products we built to move over to some other framework or system that's been integrated, what advice would you give to people about how to stay humble when it comes to rethinking your stack?
I think there are two ways to think about it. So first, I'm going to comment on the stack for the core product, right? This conversation still goes on to these days. Like it's frequent that I find myself in a conversation where we are reassessing, or I'm not, but my co-founder is. I'm not the technical founder. Or like I'm having a random conversation with the dev, or they're like, man, do you see this new thing? Maybe you change completely the way we think about working. Is RAG gonna be a thing? Like it still is, and everybody says every day it's that, but we always reassess. And part of it is the culture that we created, which is if you are comfortable with the fact that you're solving a problem and not building something, that makes the conversation much easier. Like the engineering team is more comfortable to produce something on Google Sheets if it's going to take less time and solve the problem to move to the next one, which is a bigger problem. The other hand is the stack that you use as a developer, as the team, as what we use. And in December last January, like there was a new step change. Before that, vibe coding is not something that works very well with complex system. Like it was not easy. Now, man, it's way more powerful. You can do things. I'm shipping code to production, and I'm not an engineer. And that came from a lot of every time somebody one of our values relates to the best idea always wins. It doesn't matter where it comes from. Therefore, and the other one is assume good intentions, good humans. So if somebody gives you something, hey, everybody's talking about this on LinkedIn. I'm reading it all the time. Devs are gone. Is this going to be the thing?
Yeah.
Like your first reaction is, don't be stupid. You're wrong. But okay, Ian or whoever says it, they're smart. They saw something. They want the best for the company. For me, let me test it, study it, talk to somebody. And that's what the team has done, either an individual or a person, or co-founder, whatever. And nowadays, they're like, yeah, now the game has changed. We have to rethink how we code. And that's fine. I'll give you an example of something we're doing. We now, as most people, code reviews became the new bottleneck for engineering. What we're doing is, okay, you know what? Let's try these 4 different tools, all in parallel, and let's make a decision on what we like. Maybe it'll be a combination, maybe it'll be one for each use case, or maybe it'll be a different one. And let's test it. That's fine. The testing mentality helps a lot.
Amazing. I love that. Like focus on testing and focus on the problem, not built like you're building to solve a problem, not the other way around. Okay, I'm worried because we're already getting close to time, and I really want like 2 more hours with you. Let's talk just a little bit about like the agent or AI architecture behind Cloud Humans. You mentioned RAG briefly. Is that a component of your system? How do you think about the overall architecture, and how did you guys land with that architecture? I assume it's through a lot of experimentation.
Of course. So as a context, we didn't GPT 3.5 came and therefore we started the company. No, we actually have 5.5 years that we've been going. And the first product was actually a marketplace of 1099 gig workers on demand for customer support. So that's what we did. I'm not a genius. I'm not a NASA scientist. I don't think my co-founders think themselves as the smartest people in the world. But we do understand customer support. Therefore, we knew what the users needed to make it work between humans. When a new teammate comes, what do you do? How do you talk to them? What tools do they use? How do they become comfortable? Therefore, when you think about customer support, it's something that has a very, very, very long tail of possibilities. And it's not okay for any of those long tails to have a subpar response, either in terms of being correct or in terms of the humanization or the quality or the tone of voice. Both have to be extremely accurate. So when we think about the core of the system, it's been for a long time, still to this day, the first and most important part is actually the knowledge that is put into a vectorized database. This knowledge, we have a lot of tools, and now it's more of a SaaS looking view of it, where people can audit conversations, create content, update content very frequently, and we also suggest content now to make it better. The second one is the tool that, all right, based on a question, let's look for whatever it is. So it's actually a RAG where we're gonna look for the responses. It's less about the automation here, but more about making it easier for it to find, not about the algorithm, again, back to the content. And the third is actually the LLM that produces the response. Now, there is a little asterisk here. We have, it's about 35 different robots, let's call them that can change the conversation or the flow of it depending on whatever it is. So they might act on the conversation based on the message that was written, depending on the message that the AI wrote, or the section of knowledge that was taken. For example, we have one agent that is purposefully made for clarification of questions because the regular clarification wasn't working very well for customer support and needs to have a lot of rules and definitions for customer support. Another one that is way more simpler is when an AI say, okay, I'm going to pass into a human, and it doesn't, and it makes sure that it takes an action. This is just a regex, if it's regex or a trained LLM, but basically it helps because if there's 1 out of 1,000 cases where this happens, it cannot, like it's forbidden. It's a forbidden thing. And it's an awful experience if you're saying, like, you hear from the customer support, okay, I'm passing you to a human, and this next thing you receive, what do you think about your ticket support? Awful. So all these rules, they came from being experts on the ecosystem and the environment of customer support.
Amazing. And when it comes to those 40 different robots, or would you call them sub agents? Is that a fair similar? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you design the system from the start? Like, we need 40, we know customer support really well. We're going to categorize all the different things that could happen. And then we're going to design that we need 40 before we even make them. Or did you like start with one and then it slowly add to it over time?
We had to add each one. Think about 2023. In the beginning of 2023, like LangChain was not a thing where you could imagine a flow and put an agent. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We were figuring out just like everybody else. In the YC group of AI, everybody was exchanging messages all the time. Like you couldn't even keep up with what was going on. So we were solving a problem. Whenever we launched, we decided to pivot in May. It was June. We had our first 3 clients launching. They'll give us feedback, whatever's hurting the most. Man, it's unacceptable that the AI is saying I'm passing to a human. It's not happening. All right, let's design something. All right, a couple months later, man, we're actually finding a couple errors here. So therefore, the agent that we designed was not good enough. Let's do a new thing. And that's the core of the value that we add. Is one of the main ones is this specific micro agents that can tweak the flow of the conversation.
I love that just philosophy that like we're not okay with 1 in 1,000 experiences going poorly, because that has ripple effects, obviously, if one person's frustrated. And yeah, like passing something to an AI, I think it's funny because sometimes people are like, I don't want AI, but humans don't always do the best customer support either. So it's, at the end of the day, at least for me personally, if I'm talking to customer support, I don't care if it's a human or an AI. I just want it to work and I want it to be a good experience. So I love that you guys are really focused on whatever it takes to get to that like 100% quality and accuracy.
Let me give you just one piece of information, man.
Please.
It's crazy how we humans have a higher bar for the AI than we have for humans.
I know.
Like our clients, we don't control, oh, my human is making a 5% mistake on this specific. No. The bar is very different. And even we as customers, because we had such bad experience with customer support chatbots, as soon as it starts, oh, this dumb thing again, they cannot
Hmm.
implement a damn chatbot. Never. Like, you just get pissed off.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I don't know if there's many products or like technologies like this where there were so many years of a terrible experience and a really bad brand, and now you have to overcome that as well, to the point like where we were advising our customers when we were helping people build agents and chatbots early on when we founded Voker. We were like, make the UI way different. Don't make it a little widget in the bottom right, because like they're just gonna mentally associate it. So okay, I'm sure you're busy growing the crazy business that you are. One more question before we wrap up. Voker is an agent analytics platform, so we always love to ask this. Like, once you're in production, it's different. When you're developing, locally, you can experiment things, you can send it to your team, you can do taste tests. But once you're in production, like, all bets are off. You don't know how users are going to ask, your agent what kind of questions. And it sounds like you guys learn over time and improve. What's your approach to monitoring, like, how users use your agents? If the agents are working, what can you give advice to other people who are today at hundreds of conversations, but eventually at, tens of thousands or millions like you guys? How do you keep track of it all? Yeah.
It evolved through time scale and the technology itself. When we started, we wanted to implement monitoring, but there was nothing really available that would fit all of our needs. And in customer support, people were already used to auditing humans. That's how we gave feedback. So one of the main core to this day features of our product is our client, they audit a certain number of conversations from the AI. Then as we evolved, we created something that we call test cases, which is basically like you're able to implement whether it's rejects, LLM based or whatever rules to check, and you select conversations that happen and you're able to trace it back. And then nowadays we have tracing of whatever was the reasoning of the agent to do certain action or not, and then therefore we can recommend you to change something or not for your micro agent, because it's one of the evolution of the platform that we just launched this week is
Oh, wow.
micro agents. So our clients can design a very specific agent to do a status of an order, or they can do an early check-in for a short stays company, these kind of things. Um, and, but my recommendation for the early ones is read your goddamn ticket. Like, read your thing.
Yeah.
Nobody has a better taste than you do. If you don't, there's no better way to acquire in doing this. Sometimes metrics lie, and that's something to this day it's still true. We might look at something. Oh, great, we have a CX score for quality, customer complaint, and score is amazing. Let's read some tickets. Like, we still do it, and we open 10, 20, 100 tickets, and we're like, okay, it's very obvious when something is sucky, when something is bad, or for you to formulate what is the main hypothesis of what's going on. And that's how you get embarrassed, and you're pissed enough that you don't want to be embarrassed anymore, and you fix it.
I love that. Even at your scale, you guys are still reading tickets, reading direct user feedback. Okay, I know we have to end. So I'm going to put your website up on the screen, please, Ian. Tell us how can people check out Cloud Humans. It's cloudhumans.com/US for the English version. Um, what socials should they follow along? Demo, free trial, please share.
Book a demo. We have clients across the Americas and Europe. So over there in the top right, schedule demonstration. Go ahead and do it. In the bottom of our website, you can always find our WhatsApp channel. Send a message. If you want to test Claudia, go for it. Test Claudia. It works multilingual. And the platform that we use the most are actually LinkedIn. So my co-founder and I post every single day except weekends. Well, my co-founder is. I'm not on weekends yet. And for whatever it is, if you want to become a client or if you just want to reach out to me and um, share best practices, exchange some ideas, feel free to send me on LinkedIn. Happy to talk.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ian. Great conversation. And I appreciate, like you said, for folks who want to reach out and just chat with you, I've had so many great conversations. Appreciate how how helpful you are with brainstorming or advising other startups that from where you've been before. So this is a great episode. Thanks for going over. For everyone listening, thanks for listening to Built to Ship. And if you're building something, go ship it. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for the invite.
Of course.